According to neuroscience, the most OP form of intelligence is not memory or speed, it's metacognition, the ability to think about thinking. And what makes it so rare is, even though intelligence is innate and we all have it, we always confuse it with the different types of intelligence. Schools rarely touch on explaining this until the college level. This makes it where many of us just make assumptions on understanding how to think about thinking. Then it gets lost again in how to effectively use it in your life because, once again, it's never taught properly. So let's start with a simple explanation. Metacognition is your ability to notice what's happening inside your head while you're thinking or learning, and then you steer it with intention. In practice, it's the little voice in your head or the feelings you get that does these 4 things. 1. It checks in, asking yourself questions like, do I actually understand this, or am I just pretending? 2. It judges, asking, how sure am I that this is the right answer, or how well do I know this material? 3. Plans, such as, what's the smartest way to tackle this? Do I make a mind map, teach it to someone, or talk out loud in order to see if this makes sense? 4. Adjusts, saying things like, this isn't working, let me try a different strategy. Metacognition is self-reflection, checking everything. Now, the rare aspect of metacognition is what it's not. That's what makes this tricky. The confusion from either basic thought processing, introspection, to even overthinking, with the main objection being, it's all just thinking. However, if that was true, then all the terms used would be synonymous, meaning they're interchangeable, but they're not, because they all have different purposes and uses. Different thinking for different results. Let's use this analogy to compare the 3. Imagine your brain is like a book. You're reading the book and guessing where the story goes next, such as ideas on characters, like their descriptions and what you think about the world. This would be the basic thought process, thinking about the what of things. Now let's say you're reading and understanding where the book's characters are coming from, why they do the things they do to advance the story in their favor, and what drives them emotionally. This would be introspection, thinking on the feelings. Now let's say you're reading the book, spotting errors in the pacing, inconsistencies in character writing, or the plot, and trying to find ways to fix it and make it better. This would be metacognition, thinking about thinking. The main focus of metacognition is the why of thinking. When you use the what in basic thought processing or introspection, you act as a viewer to life by assuming you're already reading the perfect book. However, when you use the why, you shift into being the author by asking, how can I build a better story? Keep the parts that work and tweak the parts that don't. This happens in the online mode of thinking, being when you have these thoughts occur in real time, and the offline mode of thinking, when you're thinking back on things in retrospect. Asking yourself why is the fundamental tool for self-improvement. Now, here are 2 ways you have used metacognition without you realizing it. 1, doom scrolling. Here is an example. Let's say you're doom scrolling social media and suddenly think, I've been on this app for 45 minutes and feel worse. So the next action you take is you turn off your phone and you go do something else, like take a walk to clear your mind because you're trying to wind down from being hooked online. Winding down from overstimulation becomes an everyday pattern. 2, studying for an exam. Let's say you're quizzing yourself and you cover the page to test your memorization on a topic. However, you only get half the problems right and you think, okay, I thought I knew this completely. I need to focus on these parts specifically that I got wrong. Uncovering weak spots are the beginning of how the intelligent solve problems. Now, those are the ways we unintentionally use metacognition. Here are ways you can practice metacognition every day to improve your intelligence. A beginner-friendly way that I use all the time is called the Feynman technique, more commonly known as explain it to a 6-year-old test. This is how it works. Whenever you feel like you understand something, a concept, a plan, your own feelings, try to explain it out loud in super simple words. If you get stuck or confused and you don't really understand it, those are your knowledge gaps. Knowledge gaps are the areas in your thinking that you didn't learn yet, and when people ask you things, you draw a blank. They need to be filled with correct information to get a complete understanding of something. These are like mental potholes. Your brain tries to find accurate information that's not there. And when you try for too long, you get frustrated and start to burn out. So here are more practical techniques for 3 areas that metacognition should be used the most. Number 1, studying for work and school. Use the blank page test. It's like what we talked about earlier. Cover your notes, write everything down from memory. Whatever comes blank in your mind is your knowledge gaps. And after you've done with every study session, use whatever memorization practices that work best for you in order to fill those blank spaces. Using metacognition for work and school speeds up the learning flow. Number 2, decision making. For any skill or thing you want to do that involves making multiple critical choices or decisions, do a quick pre-mortem, or simply think about the worst case scenario. But let me reframe it into 2 parts instead. Imagine it already failed. However, don't stop at the feelings. Ask where and why exactly would I fail that makes me scared or hesitate. Then fix those reasons before you start. These areas could be where emotions are coming from, what areas and things you have knowledge gaps, or even concepts that you never knew you had to learn for whatever you're trying to study. Write all of these things out and hit them as a checklist from what feels the most difficult, because that is where you have the most blank spaces or knowledge gaps. Making better decisions is all about the why of where fear comes from. Number 3, social interactions. After conversations, ask yourself, what did I learn about the other person? Did I listen more than I talked? Am I making assumptions or jumping to conclusions? Should I ask them to clarify to make sure we're on the same page? And if you do regret something you said, write the exact sentence out plus a better one for next time. Becoming a more effective communicator is about knowing your own nature first. To complete our understanding of what metacognition is, here is a technical breakdown of what is occurring in your brain. This information comes from the Royal Science paper, which is a foundational reference in the field of neuroscience. So as observed in neuroscience, metacognition is your brain's ability to watch itself think. This happens when the prefrontal cortex, especially the frontmost part, like the anterior prefrontal and the medial, act as a supervisor over the rest of the brain, while the back and middle parts of the brain do the actual work, such as things like seeing, remembering, deciding. The front part constantly monitors how well that work is going. It then notices when you're confused, unsure, or making a mistake. It also feels the level of confidence you have and decides whether to keep going or change strategies. The anterior cingulate cortex and insula light up to signal uncertainty or errors. Think of it like an internal alarm, and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex steps in to adjust your approach. So in short, metacognition is the brain's self-awareness system run mostly by the prefrontal cortex that lets you catch your own mistakes, judges how much you really know, and steers your thinking more effectively. Metacognition is the source of actual self-improvement. Now, to separate the most important parts from the boring stuff of everything I said, metacognition heavily impacts your confidence, decision-making, and helps you either correct mistakes in real time or think about your usual choices. Make sure that those choices don't end up becoming mistakes before they happen. Only if you let it. This proves that your instincts are always right if you listen to them and apply conscious practice. The more you train your brain to use metacognition often, you can improve all of those things: confidence, decision-making, and correcting mistakes. When you deepen your understanding of your natural strengths and natural weaknesses, or in other words, your internal world. This is why people who are perceived to be more smarter, charismatic, or athletic, they talk about training beyond natural talent. They understand how their mind works and lean into their natural strengths and weaknesses, regardless of what people told them they should do or what they shouldn't do. They proved that true intelligence isn't defined by something like IQ or standardized tests, but how one uses their unique understanding of self to leverage opportunities with their natural abilities. Metacognition is how you find yourself. So if you found this helpful, like, subscribe, and hype this video. And if you want more insight on your journey with metacognition and how to use it to understand your natural strengths and weaknesses, I have a newsletter that I'm making bi-weekly through my Substack. The first newsletter will be about my next video, which is how to specifically use metacognition to overcome doom scrolling and reverse its horrible effects. It takes a long time for me to make these as accurate as possible, so my community will get first dibs in written form as a newsletter. The link will be in the description. That's all I have for now. Till the next time, peace.